What is good, YouTube? This is the FF Dynasty coming at you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe, like, and comment below with either love or if you're feeling like some hate, throw some shade down there. Either way, it all greatly helps us out so we can keep bringing you new content. All right, so let's go to the opposite side of that. The running back you struggled most with the evaluation.
Yeah, it was DeAndre Swift out of Georgia. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that when you watch his game, he looks quicker than fast, but then he runs a 40 time that's faster than his 20 shuttle, which is more, you would expect the 20 shuttle to be faster than a 40 if he's quicker than fast. Then you see this really extraordinarily nice footwork in terms of his ability to make people miss with different kinds of movement. The quick change of directions. There you go, movement. See, there we go.
Got that little dead leg juke that is he just kills people with that thing.
Yeah, the give a leg, take a leg type of deal. The different pressure cuts that he has, those are very good. And he's the type of guy also that when you look at he's a strong guy who can drag defenders. And if he gets hit from the side by, say, defensive linemen and linebackers, he can carry them a little bit, but he's not going to win in head-on collisions. And then he's also, so when you look at all of that, you start looking at his combine times versus what he does on the field, you have to sort that out. And one of the things that I've learned, especially with Dalvin Cook, was that sometimes the combine exercise doesn't match the style of how the player plays. Everyone was freaked out about the vertical jump and the three-cone drill for Dalvin Cook, but when you watch him, he has that movement to be able to bend around the corner. Here it comes, that curvilinear movement to be able to work around the corner and do that at a high rate of speed. And that's something that DeAndre Swift also has. And as a result of that, when you look at the three-cone drill, the way they move in that sense doesn't mean dropping the hips and bending the knees deeply to make those cuts. So why are you going to apply that? It's kind of like if you're a house renovator and you're working on wainscoting for a craftsman home, you're not going to put Baroque wainscoting in there, when it calls for the craftsman style or a mission style or the Japanese craftsman style or whatever you do. And it's the same kind of thing. Like his game doesn't match the exercise. So you don't want to apply the exercise and penalize the guy too much. So it took some time to look at it and realize that. And what I also saw was that Swift was the type of guy that after I had to go back and look over and over again is that he has good initial burst for sure, but he's not going to be doing it out of jump cuts or, jump stops. It's going to be more about just immediately turning and running. And that acceleration is very strong. But his build-up speed is also very good. Once he gets to that top speed, he just needs a longer runway to do it. But if he can get past 40 yards, then he's gone because he sustains his top speed.
He's wound up and going.
Yeah. And that's what, Marshawn Lynch had a good 40 time, but we found over the years what he really was a guy that could sustain his speed even after hits or changing direction and crisscrossing the field. And that's what made his speed special, is that he could sustain the pace and wear defenders out and pursuing him. And Swift's a little like that in terms of his speed. He just doesn't have what Marshawn Lynch brings to the table in terms of power and balance to actually make that happen on a regular basis. But if he gets past 50 yards, he's not going to get run down very often.
Yeah, well, I had a question about Swift that I was thinking about was like a player like him who came in and was so highly thought of as a freshman at UGA, like when Chubb and Sony Michel were there, it was, wait till Swift's he's the guy. And like if you're into Devy, like he was a high Devy guy, and a guy like Cam Akers too, high Devy guy. Do you think, and it's surprising to I think a lot of people when maybe you don't have Swift as the top guy because for so long he was touted just. Do you think that plays into the public's opinion of like, well, he's got to be this good, and now you're saying it was a tough evaluation, and maybe he's not. He was good, but maybe he's not quite as good as everybody thought he was at the end of the day. Do you see, does that play into your opinion or to the public's opinion?
Oh, I think it definitely adds into the bias of a situation because he was touted as an excellent player. And Georgia, when you look at what they had with Todd Gurley, Keith Marshall, Sony Michel, Nick Chubb, and you bring all those guys, in a row, and you kind of have the southeastern version of running back the southeastern department of that going on at Georgia, then you have a situation where people are expecting DeAndre Swift to be as good, if not better. And especially what happens is that the upside of Devy is getting to identify players early, but the downside of it is that young players who are often touted as 4 and 5 star recruits are often just guys who grew early. They develop their man bodies early. They're faster than anybody else on the field. It's like the kid in high school who, they get enter 8th grade and they're already 5'11" and 175 pounds.
They're shaving into 7th grade.
Yes, exactly. And everybody's like, wow, he's going to be great in basketball. He's going to be great in football. And then 2 years later, everyone's caught up with him and they're even taller than he is. And he hasn't grown a lick.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happens with a lot of these 4 and 5 star guys is that, they can be very good football players. And then they have that man weight, man size, and athletic ability. But then everyone catches up and exceeds them and they don't grow as fast. And that's kind of what I think happened a little bit with Swift, not dramatically, but a little bit. And he's also kind of a player that fits certain schemes more than he is scheme independent. And so as a result of that, he reminds me of a guy like D'Angelo Williams, who I think, you put him on the Steelers at the end of the career, he could play. He was, crush it. Put him in Carolina early in his career, crushed it, but at the same time, their teams may look at him and go, we'd rather pair him with a big back like Jonathan Stewart.
Right,
then his career was kind of like not what it could have been statistically.
Right. All right.
I've never heard that, man, that grew faster 5-star recruit thing. That's the first time anybody's ever laid it out like that. And that makes sense.
Yeah. Craig Lumpkin was a Georgia back who was a parade All-American who was like, he came in 5'10", 215, rock solid, all of that. And he was a 5-star recruit, and he had a cup of coffee with the Packers and didn't look too bad, but he was slow.
Yeah.
And it was because that was his speed when he came out.
He was fast for a second, and then he wasn't so fast once everybody caught up.